Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the Professor, Greg Dooley, and the pundit, Steve Clark. Men, take the mic.
Lessons learned from Oklahoma and feeling amazing heading into the bye week. It's the Professor and the Pundit with Greg Dooley and Steve Clark, and we are proudly presented by Nick Hopwood, who's a certified financial planner, founder and president of Peak Wealth Management. Retire with peak confidence. Visit Nick's website at peakwm.com.
Thank you. More than 500 followers on Apple Podcasts, hundreds more on Spotify, tons of new followers and listeners. Thank you. Welcome. Hey, turn the pod on and stay a while. And better yet, join us in person Friday of homecoming week. That's Friday, October 3rd before the Wisconsin game. Steve and I are going to be doing a live show from the Brown Jug on South University. We'll be drinking Buckeye Tears. We will be having a ton of fun around 5 p.m. on Friday, October 3rd at the Jug. But Steve, we go into the bye week. I like that. With a big 3-point win marked by a dominant and explosive plays, a crushing defense, but also riddled with frustrating moments, more than a few. But the headline is the huge win in Lincoln as we head into the bye week. Steve, what did you see?
This was a giant setup, much like Michigan going into Champaign last year. Nebraska is a team that is on the rise. This town was ready for the next step up. The question was, how steep is this incline? But they've just come off of 9 straight seasons of not getting 6 wins and becoming bowl eligible. That finally changed at the end of the 2024 season. They won their bowl game. Dylan Royola, the second-year Bryce Underwood type of guy, is their quarterback. And a win over Michigan was going to see it as a steep incline on the way up. The ramifications for Nebraska would have been a 10-win season is a possibility. Playoff contention discussed until they lose a game. Everything would go right for Nebraska. And they're going against a Michigan team without its head coach, a quarterback who is in his infancy, a banged-up offensive line, no playmakers at the wide receiver positions. Your defense, the black shirts are back. Everything seems to be looking into their favor, except you had to play the game.
You had to play the game, and as you mentioned, even Michigan fans, I think we all had this one circled, and the consequences of losing this one, Oklahoma's one thing. Like, I think most fans didn't think necessarily it'd be a nice surprise, but you had the feeling to keep the locker room together, to keep this thing moving. We had to get this one, and we got it.
Of the 3 big road games that Michigan was going to play, Nebraska seemed to be the easiest. And if you go into the bye week at 2-2 and it's not even the end of September, Michigan fan and the mood index that you create would probably be at a 5-year low. If you're not going to win in Nebraska, you're probably not going to win in USC. Now you're looking at potentially a 3-3 season into the middle of October, and that just wasn't going to wash. And now it's changed. Michigan looked better, and they had 3 touchdowns coming off explosion plays, all on the run. Bryce Underwood putting on his cape for a 37-yard untouched TD run. Then you had the Justice Haynes highlight reel. And when it's finished, I think it's going to be incredible. Another 75-yard touchdown run just before the end of the half. He might be the only player, Greg, with more than 3 50-yard touchdown runs on the season. I already looked it up. There are several others with 2 after the 3:30 games. Didn't know what happened in the night games to see if somebody tied him.
Yeah, we're almost starting to take it for granted, man. I mean, we haven't seen this kind of explosion, these long runs in a super long time. Blake Corum was wonderful, but he was more about those 5, 6, 7, 8 yard runs. Obviously, the Rose Bowl is an exception, but come on, man. This is just fun to watch. It's just great. And I love the kid. And I've said this. What a guy to root for, and we're having a lot to root for with Justice Haynes.
And all the people who was in your class, Justice Haynes was there, and then the next Saturday, the next Michigan game, they watch him do that. And then Jordan Marshall, Mr. Ohio in the running back, chose Michigan over Ohio State, looking like a second-string tailback, says, no, I can do this too. And he got a 54-yard TD run in Memorial Stadium as well. With the game on the line, they chose Jordan Marshall, who runs into the middle of the pack, bounces out to the outside, smart enough, a Michigan man, stays in bounds after a first down and goes to a knee, really smart, allows Michigan to go to the victor's formation to end the game.
There was a lot of screaming at the TV, Steve, for this one. Some bad, which we'll talk about, but I know a lot of fans were yelling, "Stay in bounds." He knew it. He cut. He kind of danced on the sideline there, but clearly stayed in bounds and cemented the game.
Michigan averaging 8.7 yards for 286 yards total overall. Let's look at the defense, where 7 sacks were contributed by 7 players. One of your guys had a big impact on the game.
Yeah, Barham. Oh, my gosh. They're not sure what to do to him. You see, they're scheming, they're pointing, they're talking. Where's number 1? Well, here he is. He's in the backfield, throwing people around. He's fantastic. He's a problem. Their attempt to try to control him created some opportunities for other guys on the line, so it was good to see.
I mean, they clearly abused both their tackles on the left and the right. Nebraska was somewhat surprised by this. I follow their social media and their people who write and cover them daily. They know that there were problems and they got exposed there. They gave up 3 sacks against Cincinnati, didn't give up a sack to Akron or Houston Christian. Go figure. Now you've given up 10 sacks in 2 games against teams that are FBS, I guess.
Do you ever, I know you do so much research, Steve, and you've got to focus on the next team. Do you ever go after the game and spend a lot of time on the message boards to hear what they're saying and what the writers
Sure.
are? Do you have time for that?
I make time for it. You're right. I do go right to the next game. But I also want to look back to see what they're saying because it provides context when we do the podcast and other summaries, because I'll go on the Big Ten 50 on Wednesday to do a recap. And so it solidifies some things. It also brings up the nature of what other people say afterwards. So I'm sure people wanted to hear what Matt Rule had to say after the game because he's made some tongue-in-cheek comments, like one trying to extend the eligibility of a player because he didn't think the Michigan-Nebraska game was going to count because of the cheating that Michigan did.
Right, I remember. Yep.
There was another argument that even though they lost like 49-0 or whatever it was, a couple of years ago, that if it wasn't for them knowing the plays, I think Nebraska would have won the game. I mean, he was the only coach that thought that it meant that much, that losing by 50 points was going to change the outcome of what was going on. Everyone was curious to see what Matt was saying. And Matt was kind of pretty even-handed with the whole thing. He did mention that they were 2 or 3 plays away, which some people, Michigan people, will talk about. He couldn't help himself. There's always a coach that can't help themselves.
Yeah.
And so you go about 12 minutes. His press conference was about 12 minutes long. And he just got to do the one line in there because they asked about, a significant play where it was troubling. And he admitted that it was when they completed a 3rd and long that kept that long 4th quarter drive alive. And he just goes, pick play. But you got to be able to defend it, and it's
like, in other words, we can play, but hey, you got to get through it.
Yeah, you got to work yourself through these type of disadvantages that happen to you.
Hey, I will say my man looked good, though. Is he on the keto diet, Steve? Is he just, maybe he's having a tough time putting down the meals? My man lost some weight. He looks good, slim and trim.
Well, we're not talking about Biff. We're talking about Matt Rule.
No. We'll get to Biff. We'll get to Biff.
What are we talking about? We're talking about Matt Rule?
Matt Rule looks like Tom Cruise compared to our coach.
Sometimes stress does that to you and some sleepless nights. But Nebraska's Emmett Johnson, I mean, he was the 2nd leading rusher in the Big Ten. He had 65 yards. Nebraska, though, taking a minus 49 adjusted rush yards based on sacks. How about this for the Michigan defense? You held Nebraska to 2 of 12 on 3rd down. And I was thinking the game, it was going to be Michigan that was going to have the headline on being so low on 3rd down percentages. I think they were 0 for their first 7. But 2 of 12 on 3rd down overall, Michigan's defense on Nebraska was pretty amazing. Yet, if you're a Michigan fan, you don't think this was 2 or 3 plays away, like a Nebraska fan feels like.
Yeah, and Rule said that too.
You feel like Michigan should have won by a couple of touchdowns, and the Hail Mary completion at the half was absolutely huge.
Yeah, really frustrating because in my mind it never should have happened. Michigan had 3 timeouts, and they could have got a timeout with about 9 or 10 seconds left, which would have likely forced a punt. At best, it would have forced them to try to get cute and kill the clock and then throw it up, but the way Michigan's defense was coming through the line, I don't think they would have done that. It costs us 7 points, and who knows, you force them to punt. Maybe you send everybody because you don't want to return that. Maybe we get a block and a field goal or another play. It was a huge blunder. And the score's tied at halftime, which is another thing. They go in with all the momentum. It was really bad. And people probably aren't going to talk about it very much because we came out on the other side. Had we lost this game, that would have been a big topic.
See, this is how things work. Outcomes change narratives.
Absolutely.
Greg. So in this instance, we're talking about a mistake that shouldn't have happened, and they overcame it. But if it's the other way around, this is the catalyst why they lost the game. And this is what we have to blame. And if Sharon Moore was there, would he have allowed that mistake to have happened, or would he have seen it? Would he have done anything? We would be scrutinizing this whole thing to death. But as it is, I have to admit, I wasn't thinking about using the timeout because I just seen too many halves where Michigan would call a timeout on a third down so they can get the ball back, and then the other team throws a big play, gets into field goal range, and it's like, well, you just gave them 40 seconds to get 3 extra points.
But I understand that. But this was fourth down.
Oh, I know. But
I texted you, by the way. I texted you before they threw the Hail Mary so we should have called the timeout there. What are we doing?
Yeah, and in my mind, I'm thinking, let's just get to half. And so my mind was with the Michigan coaching staff. Yes, they shouldn't have done it. I learned something. The coaching staff hopefully has learned something over this, that under these circumstances, you just don't do that.
We'll never know.
We'll never know.
Sharon screaming at the television or whatever he was watching.
Right. Sam's
saying
house.
You got to call it. That's with Sam.
He was
with Sam and Ira. You have to call it. I wonder if he was like screaming that. We will never know the answer to that. We will never know, but... More importantly, had Sharon been there, would he have called timeout? Again, doesn't matter. The narrative has been defined. Also, we rushed 3, Steve, you noticed, and we didn't really cover the pass itself very well.
Why is TJ Guy going in the end zone?
I don't know.
I don't understand that. You had 3 timeouts. At least maybe call a timeout to see what Nebraska's going to look up in an alignment or something.
If you're going to let the clock run down to 1 second, maybe at least use one to have a chat about it. Great point. It was bad. And it's, the unique nature, because as a Lions fan, I've had a few of these in my life.
Oh, yeah.
You can almost see the guy somehow who's open. Like, you can see it where the opportunity presents itself. I saw the guy like, okay, and it's usually someone who's just behind the ball who emerges right into it, just like that happened. That was painful.
Squeezes his way through. It was very painful. But to borrow a Bo Schembechler phrase, that play would have killed a lesser man. That play could have killed a lesser team. And Michigan came right back out in the third quarter, outscoring Nebraska, I think, 10-0 in the third quarter. Too many drop passes in this one, too, don't you think?
Yeah, Biff called it out even, and coaches don't do that a lot, but he had to say it. Goodwin dropped what was an NFL lob from Bryce Underwood, and you're like, well, it's off his fingertips. No, he's got to adjust the ball and make that catch.
Over-the-shoulder catch.
Right in his hands. He dropped a short out. McCulley and Samaj, too. You can't drop all these balls, and they flat out did. You wonder if this is going to create an opportunity. We've talked about Andrew Marsh on this show. Is he going to get some more looks? And remember Peyton O'Leary. Has he ever dropped a ball, in play? And okay, maybe he can't quite do as many things as the other guys, but he was ready. He was on the sideline, and I saw him get in the slot and stuff like that. I wonder if they're going to look for him. But Steve, to your credit, you pointed this out in week 1 as your concern. Does he have the right guys to throw to? I'm not saying he doesn't. The guys are getting open. But we got to make the catches. And I don't know how you fix that, between now. Marlon Klein, though, sure-handed. Bryce threw a bullet to him, and he grabbed it right in and also made another nice catch later in the game. So there's hope there that we can fix it.
There's receivers who are getting open. That's an improvement. They've got to handle the fastball at times. That can be worked on both sides. Handle the fastball, and maybe Bryce throws a little bit better touch as he gets more mature. There were some missed blocking assignments in this one.
It's kind of glaring at times. Whenever you see 2 offensive linemen like right next to each other, not blocking anyone, something got screwed up. And that happened a couple times. Maybe they're asking too much. Maybe they think this is a Joe Moore line. It doesn't seem to be.
But at this point, you can say that when you have 3 explosive runs, something's being done right when you have 3 explosive runs.
Right on. You said it. But again, you still are seeing little mistakes.
Yes.
On Bryce's second attempt to rush in they had first in goal from the 9. They tried 2 runs in that sequence, and he was stuffed. It looked like Bredesen picked somebody up to seal it, but again, they tried to pull someone to get the linebacker and didn't get him, and Bryce got gobbled up. So there are some things to clean up there.
I would argue that the offensive line has steadily gotten worse over the last 4 years. However, silver lining, I saw improvements this week.
Yeah.
And so maybe as the season goes along, it gets better and they start handling some of these specific things that they used to be able to do well.
And speaking of improvement, special teams, which we've mentioned, it hasn't been a great year in special teams so far. This was much better. Hudson Hollenbeck, a big step up from the Oklahoma game. Of course, he didn't punt in the Central Michigan game. Did a nice job, and even on special teams made a tackle. So he got in the books there. And, of course, it looks like Zavada got his mojo back, man, with 2 nice kicks.
Well, one huge from 56 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like it could have gone 60. I mean, we're talking about a 3-point game. It's strange summing up on this game. Nebraska will say they're 2 or 3 plays away. You could say the game was decided by a field goal. Nebraska fans will say, look, if we made the field goal that we missed early in the first quarter, we have a tie game. Michigan doesn't screw up the Hail Mary. It's more than that. If there weren't drop balls, Dylan Raiola may have been sacked 7 times, but I think he could have been sacked 10 times, and that could have ended drives as well.
Yeah. And we didn't even mention the Samaj wide open, Samaj pass.
Right.
All he had to do was lob it up there. It looked like Samaj was trying to throw like to the flag. It's like, dude, just give it to him, man. But I don't know how much you blame if you're going to have Samaj throw the ball, who can throw the ball, but how much blame are you going to put on the pass there? But it was wide open.
There was some flawedness to the games, and it kind of indicates where Michigan and Nebraska are at. Michigan just inside the rankings right now. Hopefully there'll be some improvement.
And, of course, the Boomers are going nuts over the personal foul, the taunting penalty, which was at the time seemed like, oh, man. Because it was
they marched right down the field.
That's right. They got a field goal. We stopped them, but that was absolutely handing them points. As
it turned out, it ate a lot of clock.
It did eat a lot of clock. But still, come on, that's pretty brutal. And you go, and so you get. I saw the comments. This team, they're undisciplined. Can we enjoy the win for a second?
The Wolverines never looked lost offensively. Didn't see the obvious communication issues that happened on the road in Norman, Oklahoma. To me, this is, I mentioned at the top of the program, it seemed like a setup for Nebraska as it was for Illinois last year, and Illinois won. This was a redo to me of the Illinois hype and a redo of the Oklahoma game in Norman just 2 weeks prior. And Michigan learned from it.
No, right on. We talked about this, Steve, but just the improvement. This is a better football team today, and that's something we did not see with like the Brady Hoax and the Rich Rods. That we didn't see that improvement. That was part of the big frustration. This team that was out there, really, really a much better team, despite the mistakes. Right, despite the mistakes, this is a better all-around football team that looks like it can compete, especially at quarterback. Bryce looks better. He had a fantastic game, in my opinion. Not perfect, but he's getting used to this. Now 2 more weeks to heal up, rest up, and improve. I think it's a great opportunity.
This is a nuance, but doing the false clap to see what the defense does, then making an adjusted play call, seeing the time go off 7-6-5, realizing I got time to do this, to snap it with 1 second left on the clock. Michigan got a play where it looked like it just hit 0.
I saw that.
And Michigan made a big play out of that. The thing is, referees kind of usually wait for that little extra tick to go off to be sure before they call delay of game. Some people will say, well, it was over. Other people will say, because based on the extra tick, it would be fine. Look, it doesn't matter now. Nebraska, they can still have a 9-win season, but for now, they have now lost 28 straight games against ranked teams and add another loss to the 1-score games.
Steve, a star was born. If the national audience...
Was Bradley Cooper there?
Didn't know. No, but maybe Bradley Cooper's big Uncle Biff, I think.
Lady Gaga. Uncle Biff. Yes, Uncle star Biff was definitely born. Yes.
He was born, and it started on game day on a national audience.
I saw it.
And cutting it up with Nick Saban.
And if you haven't seen it, you should. Look it up.
Yeah, not only about buying a fancy car from one of Saban's car dealerships, but also a shot across the bow at Saban buying players. Fantastic stuff. And then the postgame, Steve. Haagen-Dazs, a Cuban cigar, and probably heading to the hospital after that was the line. Yeah. Fantastic. Like, how can you not love it, man? So
a lot of play from Biff. And Rick Neuheisel, who we have praised on this program a couple of times in his midweek show on CBS Sports, saying something that sounded absolutely asinine to me. But the idea that our guy Neuheisel said that Bryce Underwood is basically going to do better under Biff than Sharon Moore. It's just like complete disconnect about how a coaching staff works when one is suspended. Now, we can joke Michigan has done this before, and they've had some practice with it, but I think the group did not do a 180 from Sharon Moore. I think the group did exactly what Sharon Moore wanted to have happen.
100%. The notion that there's a huge separation there. By the way, Biff didn't stop in postgame. He had some good lines. More from a leader and coaching standpoint, but one of the things he said is you're 17-17 on the road in a dogfight. He goes, you got to win that game. So I think that's the way he spun out of maybe the mood in the locker room. And he also said, I'm sure he didn't use the word snot, but that we're beating the snot out of them, which Michigan really was at halftime. Reminded of that. Hopefully they forgot about the Hail Mary. And it looked like they came out because we got the ball, went right down the field.
I think they outscored them 10-0 in the third quarter. I think that's a response on both sides of the ball.
And I booked Biff a few weeks ago. He is scheduled to come into my class, Steve.
Yep.
He is perhaps, and I billed it as the most interesting man in the world is coming to our class. I have no idea how this is going to go. Do I just, Biff, take it away? Or do I need to prepare a bunch of questions for this man?
I think turn him loose. I mean, well, I mean, you ask him questions, but don't feel like you have to come up with the setup lines.
Yeah,
he'll take your normal questions and deliver A+ answers.
Yeah, it's going to be a special day. So especially with all this, but it sounds like he said he wrote a note to Sharon. So when Sharon's card back in Schembecker Hall works again after the suspension, and he gets his spot back in the parking lot.
It's working now.
It's working.
It's working now. It's Sunday.
He reads his note from Biff, but very cool. But we've had a lot of success with these interim coaches and a lot of experience with it.
8-0. If we want to be specific, it's 8-0.
Well, you know who's also 8-0, Steve?
Who's that?
MavericTechnologyPartners.com. And we're talking about interim resources, aren't we? Just like Biff, just like Sharon has stepped in for Jim Harbaugh. That's what they do. They bring in A players as interim, temporary, sometimes long-term temporary resources to support your IT infrastructure, manage your data centers, project managers. Sometimes that's going to save you a lot of money just on the resources themselves. I know it's going to save your organization a ton of money. MavericTechnologyPartners.com. They are your interim coaches, Steve, in your IT infrastructure and services and project management. That's MavericTechnologyPartners.com.
Have a problem with the broadcasters from yesterday's game?
I'm not alone here.
No,
Gary
I don't think
Danielson. So. Yes, he has roots at Michigan. He was the he's probably the first, maybe second Lions quarterback that I remember, right? Gary Danielson.
Eric Hipple.
Brad Nessler, before Hipple. Hey, Mr. Magoo. Thanks for calling out all the face masks you see. It's like George Costanza spotting the raccoons everywhere on the road.
I was spotting those raccoons. They were mailboxes, you idiot. I didn't have the heart to tell you.
Hey, Squints, stop saying things that you see if you're not sure. As listeners and consumers, we rely on what these men say up there, and women, right? We rely on it.
We're all very sensitive to this.
We're sensitive to it. Remember, like somebody had like a score alert that was a little yellow, like it had yellow in it, and we were looking, oh no, there's a flag, right? It's the same thing with these goofballs calling out face masks. Zip it. Our man, much respected Danielson, he needs to join Lee Corso as the greeter on the golf course or whatever Corso's doing now. It's time. It's time for Gary.
And Gary has announced that this is his last year.
Oh, my God.
The reason why I think Michigan fans and other fans do too, because they see everybody else from social media. You have this one-score game in 30-27, and you're going to see Nebraska fans chirping off about the face mask penalties that should have been called, and Michigan always gets the officials' calls, and Michigan fans goes, we never get the official calls, and the rest of the fan bases go, are you out of your mind? You always get the calls. And so when TV people start mentioning a missed call that went into Michigan's favor, Michigan fans just have fits over the whole thing. Doubt. I get it. I get it.
It's funny. This is the type of show where we do talk about this type of thing. But it's an important part of the game for so many of us, especially in the away games. And
don't start creating phantom penalties that weren't there. I mean, is that too much to ask? Don't say phantom penalties that had happened that they got away with that were never actually there to begin with. Here's another one besides the face mask. What about the offsides penalty that wasn't called on Michigan? So if Michigan jumped into the neutral zone, he is allowed to jump back. It's not an automatic.
Right.
You're allowed to jump back. Now, if you jump in, and a lineman tags you with his hand, you're guilty. That's an offsides penalty. But the left tackle on the opposite side of the ball moved, and he can't do that. The other guy didn't instigate it because he's on the other side of the line, and they're saying, well, he moved because the other guy moved, and they don't have their facts straight on that.
And they didn't have their facts straight on targeting either. And Gene Steratore came in, which, by the way, his explanation of why it wasn't targeting, and he was right. It just shows you how stupid these rules are. Like he had to explain like mechanically and the timing and this and the side of the helmet and this and stuff. But he was right. If he didn't come in and like bail them out, they were completely wrong.
Oh yeah. The Nebraska fan base is how is that not targeting? And the thing is, Jayshon Barham was one of those controversial deals, and from that we learned about the differences. Because the definition of targeting changes when you're a defensive player versus when you have possession of the football.
And running and making motions and all that.
And Steratore pointed that out, and I was like, that was done well. And I'm not even a director of officiating.
Absolutely.
But we've had the experience of having to go through that. Nebraska probably hadn't. And then it goes into the broadcasters, too.
Yeah.
They'll talk about it on national radio.
Right, but what you can't do is double down if you make a mistake. But you've seen that in basketball before, right?
The worst was Billy Packer. Billy Packer of CBS Sports.
We're just ruining these iconic
Mr.
figures.
ACC himself, Billy Packer, Michigan versus Duke or North Carolina. I'd see so many times where Billy Packer would see a call live, and he's right there on courtside, and he's wrong. All right. That happens to everybody. It would happen to me. The call is wrong. They would show the slow motion instant replay. And the guy's foot may be touching the line, saying it's out of bounds, and he'll circle it and say, see the space between the line and the toes? And I say, no, the circle shows me that the toes are over the line, and it's like not even close. Billy Packer doubles down on every mistake he makes, despite the replay looking at him straight in the face on a 19-inch monitor. He still won't change his mind.
So
multiple times.
I was up in where I grew up. My dad had a big birthday. Happy birthday, Pops.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, and it was real cool. But we're starting to have the thing. My nephews and nieces were there, and my nephew had his girlfriend there who's never experienced this situation before of us screaming at the television. Well, to my point about don't make it worse, Gary. Don't make me yell your name in front of this woman I've never met before hardly, and make me look like an idiot. I blame him for that, but that's what we do. Like our emotions are hanging on a lot of these plays, these games, whether we call timeouts or not, bad calls. Don't fan the flames, Gary Danielson. That's my big problem.
I nearly lost my wife over a Michigan game. I threw a chip clip, a small little chip clip that holds the potato chip bags together.
We've all done it.
I was unhappy, and I threw one at the TV. And my wife, she looked at that and it's like,
Yeah, no.
kind of thing. But
there's something wrong with all of us.
Thankfully, we continued to date after that. But and speaking of that, my wife and I, we went to a house party at one of our podcast listeners in Ann Arbor.
Was it like a fan party? Why wasn't I invited to this, Steve? Was it like
you have never met them?
Okay.
We are established friends with them, but they are podcast listeners. They have a new home in Ann Arbor, just moved into it, and it's 4 levels. And narrow, kind of what you would expect like in a downtown major city. But they turned their house welcoming into an escape room game. So we gathered for drinks outside the porch. And then we were allowed to come in, and then there was these clues. And Greg, this 4-level house had an elevator. It had secret passages. It had a professor and the pundit themed clue to get to the next level, which involved climbing a vertical bookcase. And then on another floor, they had a bookcase that opened a wall when you pulled the right book.
This seems like a mob hangout, Steve. What is this?
It was awesome.
That sounds awesome.
They had ping pong. They had pinball. They had the indoor shuffleboard game. It was truly amazing. So thank you, Mitch and Lori. A very entertaining evening. I thought it might get on the podcast, and I just decided to do it.
I got to meet these guys, man, because that sounds
they're great. They're great people.
Awesome.
They're great people.
That's so fun. I mean, it sounds like a kids party, but for adults and just a blast. Like all of those things I love. So that's so cool.
So Greg, you had a special member come into one of your classes. We'll talk about that. There was also games in the Big Ten to talk about nationally as well. And we'll wrap that up right after this from Peak Wealth Management.
If you grew up in Michigan like me, you were a Pistons fan. We always hated the Bulls and Michael Jordan, but we were super jealous of their starting lineup introductions with the music and the lights turned off. But then I grew up and realized how awesome Jordan was. And in 2016, when Michigan was the first school to wear a Jordan brand, then Jordan was on the field as honorary captain for the first game, and I've never cheered louder, except when Jaden Milroe was stuffed on 4th and goal at the Rose Bowl.
Low snap, Milroe stopped! Michigan makes a stand!
Hey, it's Nick Hopwood, Certified Financial Planner with Peak Wealth Management. I want to introduce you to our new PCS program, Private Client Services, where our fees will now include your annual tax prep costs and getting your estate plan set up. Our clients love that their investments, financial plan, taxes, and estate plan are all tied together with us as the lead. If you're looking for a second opinion, please reach out to us at peakwm.com/mgoblog today.
Yeah, so this is someone I've been trying to get in my class for a long time and thinking about and it's one of those people here at Michigan that could be in my history of college athletics class, could be in my leadership class, or my NIL class. I'm talking about Kim Barnes-Arico, KBA. I chose the NIL class, Steve. You probably know why.
Yeah.
Women's basketball is on the rise.
Correct.
There's a space carved out with it, with the back pay settlement. There's a presumption that they're involved with revenue sharing, and her team's on the rise. And she's an amazing figure. Incredible Q&A, off the record, of course. I was curious about the extent to which that she personally fit in with the revenue sharing conversation within the athletic department. And I'll say this, and I think I could share, but for someone who has a team of young superstars, everybody knows that, right, who follows this team. Silas Swords, Olivia Olson, these are McDonald's All-Americans. They brought in a transfer who once was a McDonald's All-American. So you've got this revenue sharing, you've got some NIL out there, right? But you also have to think about next year, right? If you assign all the revenue sharing to young people, aren't they assuming that deal kind of stays for the next season? So it really brings some of that into light.
Did she feel that she had to make her case toward Manuel because everybody probably thought that they deserve something? She probably has a little leverage because of what's coming into the fold, and it sells tickets to games. Did she feel like she had to overstate her case to get what she got?
I'll answer it this way. This is a strong woman who's going to fight for what she wants, Steve, whether it was before NIL and revenue sharing or after. She's going to fight for what she wants to win. Mm-hmm. So I'll put it that way.
Okay.
And not be say submissive and sit back and lay back and chill about it.
Very good.
Like I would. I would not. I would be aggressive about defending my team's place. I will say this: where do you measure yourself against? And what happens is a lot of the other teams at Michigan say, well, when they look at the resources and the coaching staffs and things like that, very few of them look at the football team and go, we should have all that. Everyone understands why the football team has what it has. Mm-hmm. They understand. But I think a thing that happens is like the field hockey team might look at, the women's basketball team. Well, I think the way a lot of the coaches like Biff Poggi looked at, she's not measuring herself against, say, the men's gymnastics team or the basketball team. She's measuring herself against the team she needs to beat.
Right.
Are we on par with LSU? Are we on par with UCLA?
Michigan State's on the rise, too, in the Big Ten.
Michigan State, are we on par or better? Are you giving me the resources I need to win championships? Because that's how Biff Poggi was held accountable. She's supposed to win championships at Michigan.
And by the way, she won one.
And she is the all-time winningest conference championship coach any sport, by the way. So she won a lot of them, but also a national
happy retirement to Bev, by the way.
But I would say absolutely. She retired. So was Coach Hutch. Hutch felt the same way. She's trying to win another national championship before she retired, right? So I think that's the way she looks at it. We talked about Caitlin Clark, Steve, and I pulled the Tim Russert where she started saying, I feel like the world, at least the Michigan world, got introduced to her back in that 2002 pink game where they wore pink at our place. And I went right to the tape.
Oh, yeah. So Tim Russert feels something and it says, I actually know something because we're going to the tape.
Yeah,
don't debate me. I have the tape.
Yeah, and she's like, yeah, you should have seen that game. And meanwhile, I've already got it on instant click. It was the next thing. And all of a sudden, on all the screens in the classroom, like Caitlin Clark's taking off from the logo, the Michigan logo.
Right.
And it was great. Steve also got a peek at Dusty's team, which we're going to talk about more and more this fall as we get closer to basketball season. Got an inside look at practice. Hey, they are, just from a lineup perspective, this looks like a semi-pro team, just in size, length. And I'll just say this, I think people are going to be really, really excited about what we see out there. I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to see a lot of new faces in the lineup. Just because of the talent we have on this team we've brought in, it's really exciting. And we're a little ways away from hockey. We're a little ways away from basketball. But, man, it's going to be a fun fall/winter.
Could there be a shift in what Michigan basketball looks like? I mean, you go back to the Beeline years, and it was all about the 1s, 2s, and the 3s, and the serviceable guy or two in the post. Hard worker out there in the low post kind of thing, but the money was made out in the backcourt. This might be a little bit different this year where the front court players are going to be the star guys. And when you're challenging the best of the Big Ten, and who is the best of the Big Ten going to be? It's going to be Michigan. It is going to be Purdue, which is going to be ranked higher than Michigan in the preseason polls coming out. Purdue's a Final Four team again this year, at least preseason prognostications. UCLA might be a factor in there. And one of the things, they're getting bigs, and they're getting versatile bigs. And Michigan got a transfer from Mick Cronin's UCLA program in there, but they got a lot of size. They got a lot of length, as you say. But it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit different watching them.
Yeah, no doubt. Just so impressed watching Dusty and also watching some of the transfers. They're leaders out there in the court, like instructing each other. Very close-knit team. I'm just really, really excited. Of course, Dooley saw them practice and play themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And some of the student managers, fill in as like practice defenders against some of the other instructions. And they must have a rule whenever they go into the lane, if they have the ball, like, don't even try to throw the ball up. It's getting tossed out. It's getting swatted out. So felt for them, but very exciting. What else in the Big Ten, though, Steve? Because there were a couple other big games.
Wow.
Now, Nebraska and Michigan was the second game, I believe, brought up by Game Day. But the Illinois-Indiana game was right up there. And as far as rankings, certainly a bigger game.
So Illinois and Indiana didn't get the clout that they deserve because they historically haven't been good. Michigan and Nebraska got the billing they got for historical blue blood teams, even though Nebraska's red. Illinois, Indiana, 9 versus 19. The last time they met where both of them were ranked was 1950. And this was a game much like Michigan, Nebraska, where a lot of people it was a tough call to who would win this game, especially when Indiana hasn't played anybody. Illinois, again, you think they're getting better. They returned so many starters, veteran quarterback, a name that we're familiar with. Indiana's quarterback we're not familiar with because he came from Cal, Fernando Mendoza. Hard to pick.
But when people are still remembering the Notre Dame game where they got their shoes blown off right in the playoffs.
In the playoffs.
They're a fraud.
So they've had to answer to offseason questions about their validity. But this game was such a blowout for Indiana, I think NBC considered rejoining Notre Dame and Purdue.
After the lightning delay.
Notre Dame and Purdue had a lightning delay. There was first thought that Illinois, Indiana would be delayed by an hour and a half. and Notre Dame started taking control offensively over Purdue, and a decision was made, trying to not do the Heidi game from 1970, because nobody wants that to happen again. The Raiders and the history behind that.
My dad was watching, and my mom, they're in their 80s. They were watching that game.
The Heidi game?
Heidi game.
Yeah.
And quote unquote, my mom, oh, good, Heidi's on.
She was the only one.
Heidi's starting.
She was the only one.
Yeah,
she was the only one.
She's all excited.
Yeah, they make the move to Illinois and Indiana. And Indiana absolutely destroyed Illinois. If we were doing the professor and the pundit for Indiana, Illinois, it would be 60 minutes of the glory of the Indiana Hoosiers or the absolute dismantlement of the Fighting Illini, a devastated group today,
and
a day after the game.
Signetti dunked on Illinois in the post game a couple of times, again with the veiled comment. But
tell me,
no, I wish I knew. I remember the words he used, but it was, I think he said twice something to the effect like it was the phrase whatever you use when you rip their heart out. They were demoralized. Whatever.
We made them quit.
Kind of thing. It was along those lines, and Bielema didn't look much better in the post game either. He, what do you say? And of course, when the post game presser makes it onto the final drive, it's either really good or really bad. And it was, Bielema looked like a mess.
Illinois resembles the stock market when it goes incredibly high up and you have irrational exuberance, and then the day of reckoning comes down, and they've been taking a stairway climb up to the number 9 ranking. People are asking, when's the last time Illinois was number 9 in the country? When's the last time they competed for a Big Ten, really? And they just took the elevator shaft down.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. As the week went on, the smart bet from the talking heads and the scribes was Illinois. People were like, when it comes down to it, Indiana in this 4.5-point spread, I don't understand it. I think Illinois is the team, citing their stronger defense. We don't know much about Indiana. The Vegas line, though, kept shifting from Indiana at 4.5 all the way to 7 before game time. Yeah, we all get a few games completely wrong despite hours of analysis and homework leading up to it. This was just completely wrong. And then conversely, the betting line between Michigan and Nebraska shifted to Nebraska from, Michigan being a 2.5-point favorite to a 1-point favorite at game time, with all the talking heads that I noticed and the experts having no faith in Michigan whatsoever.
Yeah, but that wasn't the only game. One of the talks of where I was, we talked about Wisconsin, and just when Luke Fickell was hired there, it felt like stealing a line from another coach that the neighborhood got tougher. Because while he didn't earn our respect, I don't think, when he was at Ohio State and he was an interim coach, he kind of felt like the guy just in a suit on the sideline, empty suit. He proved himself to be a great coach at Cincinnati. So it seemed like a perfect fit for Wisconsin.
Took Cincinnati, a non-Power 5 school, and got them in the playoff.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else do you want to say?
So Luke Fickell was going to bring a multi-dimensional offense to Wisconsin that they felt they needed to get to the next level. That the simply playing bully ball could only take you so far. And that's been Wisconsin's problem. They left their identity, and the idea of playing at that next level or trying to achieve that next level started by not having the right 5-star quarterback, and then not having the right type of offense and gutting the bully ball. And now they're gutting Luke Fickell's air raid offense and going back to bully ball. And for the third straight season for Luke Fickell, and I'm sounding like a Luke Fickell apologist, and I don't want to be because I don't want to care for the guy. But in all 3 years that he's coached Wisconsin, their starting quarterback has been out for significant time.
Okay.
All 3 years.
Yeah.
But this was Survivor Bowl for me between Maryland and Wisconsin, where the losing coach could get fired. Wisconsin was favored big in this one, but they were never in it from the beginning. Early in the game, they got an interception in which Maryland quickly scored. Then the Terrapin special teams blocked a punt, and they blocked a field goal attempt. And a chorus of boos and fire Fickell rained down at halftime. Look, attendance at Camp Randall used to be sellouts. They don't have the Nebraska sellout streak. The opener at Camp Randall this season was 65,000 people. for whatever MAC school they played at the beginning of the year. 65,000.
That's a problem.
On a Thursday night. It's the thing to do. Everybody's hitting searches on buyouts. The Fickle buyout is $25 million. And that would be one of the highest paid buyouts in NCAA history, dwarfing Jimbo Fisher's number at $75 million, but it might be the second highest at $25. That's a number probably too high for Wisconsin to handle because of rev share, finding new coaches, building a completely new roster of players. But you know what, Greg? Some schools are going to see what Indiana is doing under Kurt Google Me Signetti and believe that they can do it too.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Yeah, I just, buyout or not, I'm sticking with Luke Fickell for a while here. I'm giving him some opportunity. And we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but if that's the same guy who came from Cincinnati, you got to give him time to figure this out.
Their AD, Chris McIntosh, defending Fickell after the game, preaching patience and unity.
Speaking of patience, Steve, one of the other themes that my little birthday party I went to was, when is the Michigan State game going to start?
After everybody went to bed.
Yeah, especially this guy with two thumbs. I was gone, Steve. Is it over yet? We're recording this on Sunday. Did the game finish? Was there a lightning delay in that one? Because it might still be going.
I did stay up.
How many fans were there? I'm curious.
A lot. I mean, It was an 8 o'clock night game.
Yeah.
For Los Angeles. And, Los Angeles will support a winner. They will not support a loser. They will not show up if it's mediocre football. But both teams were 3-0 going into this one. USC was a 21-point favorite, kind of slid down to 19. But I had to stay up to watch the game, and it kind of went the way I thought it would happen. Michigan State's offense was going to make some things happen to give Aiden Childs confidence. This game, despite the loss, gave him confidence. It was going to demoralize Michigan State's defense. Because USC run, pass all over the place. Michigan State's defense has got a lot of work to do, and it didn't get help because he had a devastating linebacking injury. We wish the best for Wayne Matthews, their linebacker who suffered a really scary injury. He had to be put on the cart. He wasn't moving after a while. The latest reports that I have heard as of Sunday morning that he was moving in all his extremities, and I hope that continues to be that way. Wish him the best of luck. But they had another linebacker who was called for targeting. They've got a big hole there right now, and USC was able to exploit it. And, they won the game by around the point spread.
Yeah, I saw that.
But I was up till 2:45 in the morning before I called it, and it was just a few minutes before the game was over.
Steve, you are a champion. You are the pundit.
Pundits.
You do it for all of us. That was definitely, does a tree fall in the woods? Did the game even happen?
It did.
Yeah, all right, good. Speaking of not happening, things not happening, Dabo and Clemson in a spiral. They get a really bad loss for a lot of people watching it because they're, the schadenfreude of the whole thing, to Syracuse. In the pregame this week, he was kind of daring people to fire him. He was much softer in the postgame of this one.
Oh, yeah.
Because this was bad. And
I love my job.
Yeah.
He went from I'm coaching anywhere. I'm not going to retire and hang it up in a beach. And it's like, you can guys do whatever you want. And then it came so I've invested 25 years of my life in this place.
Here's a little hunch, wink, wink from the professor. My sources tell me that Syracuse quietly has built up quite a NIL war chest. And maybe some of the people we saw out there were a little better than the typical Syracuse team with some tempting offers.
You know who is really happy about Syracuse winning outside of the ACC? Well, they're kind of technically kind of in, but kind of out of the ACC.
Tirico?
Notre Dame.
Okay.
Notre Dame is happy. You know why? Because Notre Dame at 0-2, the biggest argument about them is whether they should be ranked and whether they should be in the playoff. And it's kind of funny. You're seeing people with polar opposite ideas that Notre Dame may only play one ranked team left on their schedule. And right now they're lowly ranked at 25. And if they can win that one, Notre Dame should definitely be in the playoff. And now if Syracuse beats Clemson, the pro Notre Dame people are going to say, well, Syracuse is a resume kind of win as well. But Syracuse going to be ranked this week? I don't know. If they continue to win, will they eventually be ranked when Notre Dame plays them? And therefore, all of a sudden, well, now Notre Dame's got 2 ranked wins and 2 ranked losses. And boy, they played those Texas A&M Aggies and those Miami Hurricanes pretty well. They should get in.
Yeah. A team that's really on a good course right now are the Sooners, who we're going to keep an eye on. We've got to keep an eye on their quarterback. He's now one of the favorites, if not the favorite, for the Heisman. Talking about Johnny Mateer.
There's quite a difference in arguments going on lately, is that everybody is predicting teams to beat Michigan this year. And when they do, then they say, well, that was a great win. It's like Michigan's not good enough to be talked about in the play. Have you heard Michigan's name being mentioned in playoff consideration? You have not.
It's always in the context of the Big Ten. Who's that 4th team going to be?
Right.
And it may be an after, like Herb Street threw it in like on game day as like before they closed the segment.
As a token.
Yeah.
But no one has really talked seriously about Michigan being a playoff contender all summer long into now. And now you say no because they lost to Oklahoma. I get it. But you're listing Nebraska, you're listing Indiana, you're listing Illinois, you're not listing Michigan. But if you beat Michigan, well, that's a resume builder, and therefore that puts them to the top of everyone else's list. It's just kind of funny how that's worked out with people.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right,
they're going. New Mexico was off. I kind of want to keep an eye on New Mexico too, but they were off.
Let's talk about the Sooners. They did win over Auburn 24-17. You mentioned Mateer. The SEC had to give an apology to Auburn. It was a 7-point game. Oklahoma got a touchdown on the old intent to deceive, now replayed in 2025, where Stenger looks like he's heading out of bounds to be out of the play, but he keeps both feet in bounds, takes off completely unguarded. Auburn is crying foul, and the SEC agreed with him. And now I am going to watch Auburn play in its next game this Saturday at number 10, Texas A&M, as I'm watching an SEC matchup in College Station over the bye week. I am excited to see this one with friends. I wish I could have one-upped you by teleporting myself there at kickoff, because that's the only way to one-up you, but we haven't discovered that technology yet. But I'll take the long drive after a flight from Dallas.
I'm curious to hear your sights and sounds. I'm sure you'll have a ton of it. I got to say, I fell in love with that vibe when I was in Oklahoma because I want to do something like this. What else, Steve? Anything else?
Well, the SEC is announcing their opponent schedule due to come out Tuesday night for their 9-opponent schedule that starts in 2026. It's 4 years worth of opponent scheduling, not time and dates yet or anything like that.
But who are they
going to play? Yeah. And their format is every team is going to have 3 annual games. That's not the way it is with the Big Ten, and 6 rotating ones. So in the Big Ten, Michigan's going to play Ohio State and Michigan State every year. That's 2. Iowa's got 3. Penn State has none. Penn State's entire 9-game conference schedule is on a rotating basis. But Michigan will always play Ohio State and Michigan State. So the SEC, a little bit more uniform. We'll find out who that is. And there's going to be a lot of talking points about it. I guarantee it that there's going to be a lot of discussion about who got who every year and why they should or why they shouldn't and who got stuck with whom and whose schedule is now going to be more tough than anybody else's and who's going to cry about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're not involved, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
No, I like it. I like that they're doing it. In fact, the Big Ten brass likes that the SEC is also moving to this 9-game conference schedule. I've heard multiple athletic directors say so. We got the Zach Bryan concert coming to the Big House. They expect, 125, 130, potentially breaking some arena concert
outdoor
rule.
Stadium record. Maybe.
Yeah, and I actually got, speaking of, not a sports thing, but in my leadership class, actually had a guy who happens to teach entrepreneurship at Ross, who is responsible for launching the careers of John Mayer, Hootie and the Blowfish, The Fray, Train, like all these bands.
Michigan.
Yeah, he's a name you might not know, but responsible for all these big acts. Well, when the athletic department was looking to do this concert, someone said, hey, you should go talk to that guy. And his name is Greg Latterman. And he called Live Nation and other people. He knew all the right people to call. And Zach Bryan's people got back with him within 10 hours and said, we just did a big show at the Meadowlands. We're looking to do something in the Midwest. This is perfect. Bob's your uncle. He's coming with John Mayer, who happens to be, for this concert. And there's a huge overlap with season ticket holders, students, fans coming to the big house for this new experience. Looking forward to hearing about it. I probably won't be there. I got a wedding up north, Steve, if you believe it or not, for bye week. I know. So what are we going to do there? I don't think that violates the football schedule.
No, it's a concert, not it's a concert in Michigan Stadium.
Kind of does.
You're gonna try.
Kind of
violates
it. Kind of.
Good luck to you on getting out of that.
Do we have time for Things Only Steve or Greg?
We are near the end of the longest podcast episode we've ever done, but of course we will make time for things only Greg cares about.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Everybody knows nobody cares.
No one cares.
Nobody cares.
I care.
Then do whatever you want.
Steve, I took a beating on Twitter. Actually, I got like 100 or 200 likes for doing this, but I gave a big thumbs down to the Bussin' Bowl trophy, which Taylor Lewan and his podcast partner, it's nothing to do with them. In fact, I'll give him some praise. I've met Taylor Lewan, of course. I talked to him before the Fiesta Bowl. Totally kind. I think they do a great show. It's not something I listen to. I listen to the Connor Stallions episode. They created this trophy, though, Steve, and it sucks. Okay, it's a manufactured. It's called is it a bowl game trophy? Is it a rivalry trophy? Look, as a historian, there's a reason why Michigan fans never really liked the Paul Bunyan Trophy, because it was a political stunt by the governor at the time and kind of shoved down our throats, okay?
All right.
This, to me, falls into that category, and it dilutes the OG, the best trophy of them all, the original, the little brown jug.
Sounding like an old man, Greg. You're sounding like an old man, Greg.
I know,
if the trophy isn't 100 years old, it's not worth.
Yeah, you're right. And of course, on Twitter, I go, "Okay, boomer," and someone goes, "And your podcast sucks." So I don't think that was a listener in the first place, but I don't like it, and I'm not talking about the history of the Bussin' Bowl Trophy ever in my class. Okay, yes, we do talk about the Paul Bunyan Trophy.
They did get some attention because the other guy, Will Compton, is a Nebraska player.
Yeah.
Now, as a loser, he had to shave himself completely head to chin.
Okay, so
all right,
I like it even worse now.
That's one thing. The other thing he had to do, this is what might strike you some interest. Will Compton has to write a $50,000 check to Michigan's NIL program.
To Champion Circle.
He does.
I love it.
He does.
All right.
That's part of the loss. And if Michigan had lost, Lewan would have had to done it for Nebraska.
Okay, I like it a little better now. That's very good. Maybe it'll go to the softball team or the women's basketball team. Steve, next time I talk to you, were you going to be at the Jug? Is that our plan?
That is it. Our next broadcast will be at the Brown Jug out on South University, Friday, October 3rd. We will tweet the specific times that we will be out there for that. We will record from there. We'll be certainly happy to talk with you over a glass of Buckeye Tears.
Yeah, show us your Prophet Pundit tattoos, whatever you want to do. Come strong.
How many is that going to be?
No, they're out there. I'm sure of it by now with all our new followers. And again, if you've made it this far, maybe you're a new listener. Thanks. We hope you like the vibe. This is what you get each week, and we hope to see you at the Brown Jug.
Go Blue, Greg.
Go Blue.